de mamão.
Court is in session with Ryan in Sacktown on If You Don't Like That. Now, Ryan in Sacktown.
Oh, must be Rhino.
Where to even start on a Tuesday?
Taco Tuesday!
First off, breaking news in the King's Court. Al, the Al hotline is back. There's the number right there, 916-822-9485. You can call or text the show. We have got a ton of content today to talk about. Monday night football last night. My goodness. I could do a whole show on that game last night. Not just what happened on the field, but what happened off the field. Also, Tuesdays. Therefore, our man Jera. So we've got the latest comments from Jerry Jones that we're going to be digesting together.
There's a pony in here somewhere is the old adage with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus. Well, that's us.
Speaking of Christmas Day, it is the month of December, meaning, check this out, December 15th. Does that date mean anything to the Kings fans? December 15th. We'll talk about it. The Kings are wrapping up practice today. We're going to go over the 2025 free agents whose contracts are expiring at the end of this year. Also 2026, most notably De'Aaron Fox. So we'll get to all that and more on a Tuesday. Let's get after it. Court is in session.
Grant and Ryan, break it down. It's Sacktown, we're the crown.
Needs to be more aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the time to Williams, the D-Hawk. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like.
Still recovering. I not recovering, but the earthquake yesterday. My family's making me feel like I'm the weird one. They're like, we didn't feel it. Talked to my dad earlier today. I didn't feel it. So I know Sean Cunningham felt it. He said it's shaking in Sacramento on his X feed, so I can't be alone. Peter documented it for us as well. But hey, John Finch.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
The lengths that ESPN has to go to get you to tune in to a Cowboys game at the end of the season is insane. Last night was as much about what was happening off the field as it was what was on the field. We'll get to all of that in a second, but welcome in. Happy to have you here. We're brought to you by Bennett's Westside Grill in Rockland. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. You can learn more about all three of their locations here in the greater Sacramento area. I want to get your participation today. Like I said, you can call the show the way we always do it. You can call in through Restream using the link that's in the chat or the QR code on the screen. You can also now call from your cell phones, call from your desk. You can call the phone number or text the number to the show. It's 916-822-94. Let me make sure I have this right. 9485. Al, it's your number, dude. We did this for you, Al. So you better use it, buddy. And anybody else would love to hear from you today. A lot to talk about. I can see the chat is already popping. Lights. Been able to watch the games now, bro. Which games, bro? NFL? Been popping around a little bit. I watched the NFL game last night for a little bit. David, what's up, man? Hi, all. It's a cold one up here in Seattle. How's Seattle feeling right now about them Seahawks, David? How are they feeling about them Seahawks? Also, they had a hell of a college basketball game for early in the season this past weekend. Was it like the Battle for Seattle? I think it was called, David. It was Gonzaga and Kentucky. They packed what used to be the Key Arena. Now it's the something about global warming. Global warming, what? That's Jim Rome. Jungle Tourette's, my bad. Just put it under that category. Jungle Tourette's. But that was a great game early in the season. But Dennis, let's effing go. Love it. Did you miss something? I don't think so. It's going up on a Tuesday. Damn well. Jerry's gonna cook. David, you don't worry about that. Jerry is gonna be cooking here in a little bit. David picking me up. Yes, it was in Nevada. Surprise you felt anything. I felt it. It was weird, and it was right when it happened too. Unless you guys think I am making something up, which I am not, but who knows? Some people might. What's Jerry cooking? Biscuits and gravy? I don't know what Jerry's cooking. Jerry is just in a different place. He is just a different guy. You know, he sat down. Well, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it so you guys can hear it here in a little bit. 20 seconds in sack for that. Good. All right. So we've got the catch up on the chat done. I want to start off talking about Monday Night Football last night. The length that the NFL, that ESPN has to go to get you to watch the Cowboys late in the season is insane to me. Let's take... we're going to start from the beginning. You're doing a Simpsons simulcast for this game. Yes, so you can go to Disney Plus if you are a Disney Plus member, and you can watch an animated version of the game from Springfield, from the Simpsons world, right? So you're already doing that, okay? And ESPN last night, they started out strong. I got to tell you. They started out really good. They were tugging at my heartstrings to begin the broadcast. If you weren't aware, ESPN does this thing every summer. They've been doing it for a while now. It's called My Wish, and they work with Make-A-Wish Foundation, which to me is one of the best and most incredible charities out there. I think they do incredible work. That's just my personal view, granting wishes for those that are young or have a terminal diagnosis or going through a very difficult medical situation. Well, they did a wish a few years ago for this kid. He is a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan. And unfortunately, his leukemia came back. And his wish was to meet Jamar Chase, spend the day with the Bengals at training camp, hang out, right? And so anyways, great segment a couple of years ago, right? And so fast forward, they did an update on the story, and the kid who was sick, his cancer came back, and the cancer, apparently it's a pediatric form of cancer where if you, and his name's Braxton Wood, by the way, I don't want to keep saying the kid, but it's a form of cancer where its ability to be treated, if it comes back, is much lower. And so luckily for him, he was able to get a bone marrow transplant, which then put him back on a healthy path. Well, he's from Texas. He's from Georgetown, Texas. That's him right there. That's Brixton Wood, excuse me. You probably saw him all over the telecast last night. Well, he got to meet with Jamar Chase again last night or the night before the game. And I was praying. They did this update story, but I'm praying. I'm like, let Chase get in the end zone, because Chase had a special celebration for him if he scores. Well, Jamar Chase gets his touchdown, and ESPN was playing it up. They were showing Brixton on the broadcast left and right. Really good stuff at the game with his family. Jamar Chase, incredible. The athletes and the people that grant these wishes, sometimes they go above and beyond. They stay in contact after you initially get your wish. And it seems like that's been the case with this one in Brixton. So him and his family at the game, root the Bengals on. What a great thing, especially before the holidays. It was a surprise to him now that he is in a better place with his health. So anyways, great story, right? Like, awesome. Now just let the football game play out. Look we're already getting in. people loving the Simpsons thing last night. The Clutch Boys or Bros, what's up, man? Loved it last night. Simpsons was funny ASF. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Homer dropping back. Have you seen some of the AI generated ones where they actually replace some of the players with characters? You've got Mo running around doing routes like an NFL receiver. It was really funny. Yeah, they did a good job. It was better, I thought, than the Toy Story one that they did from the Jacksonville game in London last season. So Homer is the better quarterback than Cooper Rush. Yeah, we're going to get to the Cowboys. We've got plenty on the Cowboys to get to. So anyways, ESPN kicks it off with a great story. So you're rooting for Chase, right? You're rooting for this kid. If you don't have an investment in the game outside of fantasy football, or if you're a Bengals fan, a Cowboys fan, whatever it may be, it's like, all right, that's a great heartwarming story around the holidays. So pregame keeps going on, and they kick it back from commercial. Jason Kelsey, one of those guys, finding his way through the new media. He's one of the media darlings. And by the way, let me just go on the record. This Kelsey stuff, it's gone too far. When I'm going down the aisle at the supermarket and I see the Kelseys have a cereal, yeah, let's reel it back. And we haven't even hit on T Swift and Travis. So anyways, they come back from break and Jason Kelsey just hits Dallas with a drive-by.
State of Texas, Arlington, Dallas. Little geography lesson here.
Also the butthole and armpit of America.
Hey!
I was joking. It was a joke.
Whoa!
It was a joke.
Whoa!
See, now guys.
We got to week 14 before it happened.
It was just a joke because of what Nina said.
Okay.
Was it? Was it?
Okay.
Was it a joke?
Well, we're having fun here.
Now we're starting to come off the rails, right? We're starting to come off the rails just a tiny bit. Dallas is the quote butthole and armpit of America. Now, look, I can't in good faith sit here and act like a hypocrite when I have built a brand on the Jim Rome Show around cracking on cities here in California that are worse than Sacramento. I can't do it. Specifically Bakersfield, Riverside, Fresno, all have been targets of mine on the Jim Rome Show. So, Jason, I get the joke. Probably not the right place in the right time, but I get the joke. When I think of the quote butthole and armpit of America, I don't know that Dallas is the first city that comes to mind. Now, it might be for some of you because of the people that reside in Dallas or play in Dallas, but Jason Kelsey, I mean, coming in hot, and the guys didn't even see it coming.
Little geography lesson here.
Also the butthole and armpit of America.
Hey!
All right.
It was a joke.
All right. It was a joke, right? So now we've got the Simpsons going on over here. We've got a great story with Brixton. We've now got an awful announcing story with Jason Kelsey in Dallas, a feud that nobody asked for, a feud that nobody wanted. And then we get to the football game, right? Time to lace them up and play football. Finally, okay, can we get back on track? I'm here for a football game. Even if it's a football game that doesn't have a big impact on how the playoffs are going to play out, I just want to see a football game. And of course, first touchdown by the Bengals, somebody jumps into the red kettle, the Salvation Army red kettle. Okay, been done before, whatever. Chase gets his touchdown, right? And some people, the Clutch Bros, saying, can we go back to The Simpsons? We can go back to The Simpsons in a second, but I made the most unfortunate mistake of my life last night when it comes to watching NFL football. I should have known to keep it on that Simpsons broadcast for the entire game. I shouldn't have even checked in with the ESPN broadcast. I should have gone with my gut and watched the Simpsons broadcast on ESPN Plus, because as soon as the Bengals ran out their freaking kicker, the entire broadcast became about this. Yes, that. In 2024, the new formula for producing and directing an ESPN broadcast, an NFL on CBS broadcast, a Fox broadcast, an NBC broadcast, Sunday Night Football is now to show the significant other of a player. In this case, and I'm not kidding you here, in this case, the kicker for the Bengals is dating a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Who cares? Big deal. Now I get, like, in real life, this is how it works, by the way. The players are not supposed to be talking to the cheerleaders, and the cheerleaders are not supposed to be mingling with the players. They are not supposed to be dating. That is something that actually goes on. But in this case, he is from a different city, playing for a different team, just got signed a little bit ago. And here's the worst part of this. That kicker ain't going to have that girlfriend come tomorrow or the next day with the amount of camera time that she got last night. In fact, the camera caught her at one point, the ESPN mics, cheering on her boyfriend and the Bengals. What's she supposed to do? I don't care about that. But ESPN, it became this. That was all it was. This dude trots on the field. It's a straight shot to her. And it was so awkward. She's just like sitting there smiling. She knows the camera's on her. And the worst part is the camera is not even eye level with her. They're doing a shot from down below, looking up at her. You can figure why they're doing that shot. So you're telling me that ESPN, in order to get ratings for a Monday Night Football game, needs to not only do The Simpsons on ESPN or on Disney Plus, they've got to have Jason Kelsey say something outlandish to go viral, right? And now the storyline of the game is the kicker for the Bengals is dating a Cowboys cheerleader? And that's all you reminded us of every single time this dude came on the field. Is this like the state of producing and directing NFL games now? Or is this what it takes to get some people, to get the bigger audience to turn into the NFL? Because now we know the formula works if you're Taylor Swift, right? If you're Taylor Swift, it works because you have a humongous following. I think it's pretty safe to say if we put a Mount Rushmore of the most famous people in the world on this show, or we talked about it, we formulated one, Taylor Swift has to be on that Mount Rushmore. She has to. Taylor Swift, The Rock. You get my point. There's fame, and then there is a different type of fame. But ESPN, that's a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, y'all. It ain't Taylor Swift. So, anyways, what I'm saying is you had a heartwarming story to run with. Show Brixton in the crowd. Show him and his family celebrating. Jamar doing the dance, the giddy for him when he scores the touchdown. Keep going back to that. That's the stuff I like to see. I don't want to keep seeing this because that's all we saw last night. Now, as for the game, it was actually a decent football game with a very, very bizarre ending, a super bizarre ending. The Cowboys had the chance to get the ball back with about 2 minutes left. It was right there in crunch time, and the Bengals were punting. The Cowboys blocked the punt, and one of their players tried to field the blocked punt, which made it a live ball. because he touched it. The Bengals got the ball back. Cowboys never saw it again. And the Bagels win the damn game because of that. Now, what's that lead to? It leads to what we do on Tuesdays, and that's Jerry Jones. Seriously, what was everybody's first thought, by the way, when Dallas lost that game, the way they lost that game? What was your first thought? Was it, oh, is Mike McCarthy? Is this it? Is this the nail in his coffin? It was no. It's Jera. It's how is Jera going to react to this thing? And luckily enough, on Tuesdays, we've got plenty of audio from Jerry Jones because he does his press conference or not his press conference, but he does his weekly hit on 105.3 in Dallas. So we're going to start listening to that here in a second. Let's get back to the chat really quick. We do have a ton of Kings coming up. We're going to be talking about December 15th, the importance of that date. We're going to be talking about free agency. Also, by the way, Shams, just so you know, Shams has come out with his little list of rumors about what he is hearing in terms of the trade deadline. We're going to talk about those. There was a fan formulated proposed trade that was making its way around social media yesterday involving De'Aaron Fox. So we're going to get to all that. By the way, the Kings wrapping up practice. Practice is over now. Most notably for me, I'm not sure if any of you saw this. Devin Carter getting up some 3-pointers with Doug McDermott in practice today. I'm sure audio is going to be coming in anytime from that. So Kings Pelicans on Thursday. We will get to that throughout the week. Don't forget, tomorrow we've got a full day of coverage and content. We've got 3:00 Sean Salisbury with Grant here on the channel, and they will be talking the NFL, college football playoff. And then 4:00 we have our weekly Kings roundtable with Jerry Reynolds, where we recap the previous week of Kings action. And by the way, if you were not part of the show yesterday, I want to pose the same question to you. The question is, what is your grade for the Kings' last 5-game segment? What is your grade? And if you weren't here yesterday, I laid out the stats, the increase with Malik Monk in the starting lineup in certain categories over that 5-game segment versus the first 20 games. I'll recap that in a little bit, but I do want to get back to the chat and back to Jerry because we are going to get our weekly dose of him. And he did not disappoint. I can promise you that. Let's see. ESPN wanted likes. Yeah, that's what it. Look, there is a certain segment, and this is not like breaking news. This is not a thesis where I've put a ton of time into this thought, and I'm going to be absolutely making your ground shake. They are trying to attract the casual viewer. The NFL game is now no longer good enough for them because there is a group of us that will tune in no matter what. Football's on, we're there. Or if we're out, we're listening. We've got it on our mobile device. They know we're locked in. The same group that does fantasy football, you got playoffs coming up, the same group that does NFL Sunday Ticket, right? But they're looking for the casuals. And so for us fans that are there for the football, they don't really care about us anymore. It's the casual stuff. It's, oh, look at this cute story, this couple dating. Yeah, they're doing it for likes. And Jason Kelsey, my goodness. This is why I hate ESPN sometimes. I don't even watch, really, ESPN anymore. Unless it's because I am watching a game. I don't watch the studio shows. I don't do any of that. Simpsons was the best. Yes, indeed. BJ, I bet if she was white, it would have been a thing. It's ESPN. Yeah, I'm not going there, BJ. I get what you're saying, but I'm not going to go to that conversation. Lydia, what's up? Happy Tuesday to you. There's a bunch of men Dating cheerleaders, not a big deal, right? Right? In fact, are you almost trolling the kicker by showing the girlfriend as much as you did? What's the point of that? It is a good point. Dudes are dating cheerleaders all over the place. And maybe not necessarily cheerleaders for their team, but cheerleaders that may be in the NBA and you're an NFL player. There's a ton of that. So maybe it's a troll job on the kicker. Like, look at the kicker, the kicker, the kicker. That's his girlfriend? No way. The kicker, that's his girlfriend? I just don't get it. See, and this is where it kind of goes down that rabbit hole. That's why they're doing it. So I was laughing. Simple Cowboys. My goodness, was I ever. Hallelujah. Amen. Appreciate that. Cowboys doing their thing. Cowboys doing Cowboys things. They just do Cowboys things. I can't wait to hear from Finchy. I know he's in here. There he is. There's the man himself, John Finch. Finchy, you know the question I'm going to ask you, Finchy. Finchy.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Dude, Finch, pay attention. We've got Jerry coming up. By the way, you can now call and text the show 916. And you know what? Let's just pull this out so I don't forget. 916, and I don't say my own cell phone number. 916-822-9485. Appreciate everybody watching on X and YouTube, participating in the chat. You can also call using the link if you'd like to come on video. I'll put that back in the chat as well. No BI, no coups, LOL, the kicker. That's what I'm saying. It's like the kicker. I think that's what they're kind of trying to do. ESPN, okay, fair enough. The Manning cast, I like. ESPN2, the Manning brothers, is great. Highly recommend watching them. Funny and great insight. Peyton is so good. Peyton is got one of the best personalities that's genuine. Like super genuine. He is who he is. He's not somebody different on camera. He's quirky. But famously, Peyton Manning would write handwritten notes to people. Probably still does. But when he was playing, that was a big thing. Instead of emails, instead of phone calls, old school, handwritten notes. But his SNF appearance might be one of the best I've ever seen. All right, we're going to keep going through the comments. Let's listen to Jerry Jones. We've got about 7 or 8 different cuts from his press conference today that are notable. Yes, and he went for 20 minutes. So I want to see what all of you pick out from that. Here is Jerry Jones from this morning on 105.3 The Fan.
There's chaos out there, a lot of moving parts. Everybody's got a lot of different things to keep in mind, and that was a mistake not to run from the ball, but you've got to assume that he saw the ball. You got to assume he knew where the ball was, all of those kinds of things. So unquestionably, it was a play that you'll keep in your mind forever, probably, that had the player done differently, then we would have got possession right there, and a good chance we win the ball game. But
you're going to keep that in your mind forever? I don't know about that. Forever, Jera? And he's just getting started. Here he is again.
So got quite a range mentally. And,
oh, by the way, if you didn't know, let me set this up. My bad. Micah Parsons, visibly frustrated, visibly after the game, after the special teams play, visibly pissed. Reports saying he walked off the field. Remember, Micah is kind of out there in no man's land right now. Dak got his contract. CD got his. What about Micah? So Jerry addresses it here, and check out how he absolutely throws Micah under the bus. Let's see if you catch it.
So got quite a range mentally. And he does a lot of just really rare things. And it doesn't surprise me at all that he could have an emotional swing to the bottom the way he did after that ball game. After really giving a big accounting, he was a real factor in that ball game to have.
It doesn't surprise him that Micah could swing to the bottom like that. What are you saying about your players, man? Jerry, like, and I pose this question every week. Is this Jera being Jera? Or is he just that out of touch? Does he just see these players as commodities and not people? Crazy. Jerry again.
Well, I know that we needed to win the game to really uh, uh, to really have what I would call a really win out, get better chance to get in the playoffs. And then we had to have some things happen for us. That was a setback last night. That was a hard one. We'll have to circle the wagons here and get out here and get ready to play Carolina, who gave Kansas City all they wanted last week. So bottom line is that this is the life we've chosen.
Can we do a Jerry Jones Scrooge parody where the ghosts try to get him to sell the team? We might be able to come up with that, but John Finch, you're really going to cringe here in a second. You're really going to cringe. Jera is not backing off of a certain point. Now, he's going to start talking about what Dak Prescott is to this team. He's also going to start talking about Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy's future. Now, more importantly, I think I went over the clip. I'm not going to go back and replay it. Jera expanded, and this was the part I wanted you to hear. I just don't want to bore you with too much audio. Jera expanded on whether it was a good idea or a bad idea to block the field or block the punt, attempt to block the punt. Jera's explanation was in a roundabout way that did not make a ton of sense, but basically said I was on board with it. But most notably, check this out. Jera straight up says, I sat down with the special teams coach after the game, and he showed me the images, the pre-snap images from earlier in the game that made him go with the decision to go with the punt block. What GM, what owner sits down with the special teams coach after the game? Jera, I'm just going to go out and say it. Fire Mike McCarthy. Okay? Fire Mike. I'm going to take the same stance I took on the Lakers this summer when they were doing their coaching search. Get rid of Mike McCarthy, just like the Lakers got rid of Darvin Ham. Okay? But instead of hiring a different coach, Jera, you become the coach. You be the owner, coach, GM. Hell, if the NFL allows it, you can be a player coach. You're that involved, my man. Just do it. You're already throwing everybody under the bus. You're shooting bullshit like out of your you're giving Dallas Cowboy fans false hope, Jera. The over-involvement has been there for years. But at this point, you talk like the coach. You do the things the coach does. Just become everything. Just do it. What position should Jerry play? Anyways, here's Jerry again.
Well, let me be real clear. It's obvious our quarterback for the future is Dak Prescott. So we don't have to have guesswork about who's going to be our quarterback, number one. And so, number two, we will particularly be looking and have the opportunity to continue to look at these offensive linemen, get those snaps, get those reps. That's a big deal. And that should pay off for us as we go forward, because we've got about 3, possibly 4 young players that will really benefit from it. We've got a couple of young receivers that you'd like to see.
And then here was Jerry on whether or not Mike's going to stay around, because he spent about 10 minutes really hyping up Mike McCarthy and talking about how Troy Aikman gave him his bit of support on the air. Talked about Micah Parsons doing the same, Dak Prescott. Here's what Jerry had to say. This was incredible.
Not surprising at all. Mike, he wouldn't be in this job had he not had the kind of credibility that those endorsements reflect. He's a heck of a head coach in the NFL and has got the skins on the wall to prove it. We have.
What are the skins on the wall? I don't want to know about the skins on the wall.
Never felt that we were backing in with Mike McCarthy as our head coach. And so, yeah, you bet. That's all a part of as we look to the future. I'll tell you right now, the fact that you are talking about Dak's endorsement says so much about do we want to benefit from these last 5 years that Mike has had with Dak Prescott. You've got Dak Prescott going forward, an incremental part of how we're going to be as a team over the next few years to come.
Wait, did Jerry just say an incremental part? You just said that Dak's the quarterback. Dak's everything. He's your franchise. Incremental part, skins on the wall. Jerry also talked about, he talked about how the NFL came to him and asked him if he could do a seminar on hiring head coaches.
One of your good friends, someone you have great affection for.
Excuse me, here it is.
Again, you're going to the inner parts of my mind this morning. I'm not so sure that I'm ready to go there, but there's no secrets in there. I'm just it'll have the benefit of a lot of years involved here doing this, both on and off the field, and doing it in other areas too. So to that end, that's probably a plus. Sometimes, like when I first got involved with the Cowboys, sometimes maybe you're better off not knowing what you're doing and just picking an instinct. That's why I got my old teammate Jimmy Johnson to come in. I was asked one time to be head of the committee to coach owners on how to hire coaches. And I was asked that because we'd had success my first 5 years. And I told the commissioner, I've run out of teammates. That's my criteria. And so now I need to be in the audience listening to how to do the coaching thing.
What? Jerry needs to be in the audience. So, BJ, I just texted the show and it works. So it must be something on your end. It came through. I'm looking at it right now. Again, you can call 916-822-9485. So that is our weekly dose of the one and only Jerry freaking Jones. John, this offseason, I'm telling you, man, make Jerry your coach. Just do it. Just do it. Why would the NFL ask him? Is that crazy? Well, Jerry must have been referring to like a time way back in the day when you had Barry Switzer Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells. The thing is, Jerry doesn't want anybody that's going to challenge him. He wants a yes man and a fall guy. If you're a yes man and a fall guy, you can have a healthy career as the head coach in Dallas. Look at Jason Garrett. Example one right there of that. And then you can bounce to broadcasting and never coach again. What does that say about Jason Garrett, by the way? Jason Garrett doesn't seem like he has been a wanted or hot commodity amongst NFL owners and teams looking for coaches. Bill Belichick, on the other hand, is now talking with UNC. Jared talked about that. Not going to put you through that. But man, Cowboys fans, tough season. Really tough season. And an owner that just continues to live in his own world known as Jared's world.
There's a pony in here somewhere, is the old adage, with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus. Well, that's us.
Oh, man. If you want the opposite experience of being a Cowboys fan, you need to get to Bennett's. Yes, that's the West Side Grill, their newest location here in Rockland, located in the Blue Oaks Town Center. I can't say here because I'm in Elk Grove, but go check them out. 3 locations in all in the greater Sacramento area. If you have a holiday get together, an office party, Christmas party with friends, whatever it may be, and you're looking for a spot, think about Bennett's. They've got some beautiful private dining rooms that they'll set aside for you. Get your own personal space, same great food, prime cuts of seafood and steak, and same great service. Also, if you go to their website, bennettsrestaurants.com, you can now put your orders in to go for the different locations, and their specials are right there on the website for you to check out. They have something going almost every day of the week. Happy hour Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 o'clock. Weekend brunch, which is one of my favorites. And then also prime rib on the weekends. They've also got some other great dining specials that are sprinkled throughout, like Monday night wine and dine. What I'm saying, get to bennettsrestaurants.com. Check out everything they have to offer. A lot of you have gone out and supported them and really enjoyed your experience. So thank you for doing that. Let us know when you go out to Bennett's. We will make sure to highlight that, retweet it, put it up on the screen. We appreciate all of you supporting them. And I'm telling you, one of my favorite places here in Sacramento to dine. So go check them out. Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Huge thanks to them for sponsoring the King's Court today. We still have a lot of show left coming up at about 2:45, which is right now. We're going to talk some Sacramento Kings basketball. The Kings getting their practice in at a time in which they really needed it. We talked about it yesterday. I want to go over these stats again that I talked about yesterday. So in the 5-game sample size that Malik Monk has been starting, I gave you some of these numbers. In fact, I put the tweet out. I'm going to read directly from the tweet because that gives you a better idea. I think I summarize it better in a more direct way. So here is the tweet that I put out. I compared the team stats from 10/24 to 11/29, which were the 20 games in which the Kings played first part of the season, but those were the games where Malik Monk did not start. We've had 5 games since Malik Monk started. And here's the difference in the numbers during those 5 games compared to the first 20 games. Record 3-2 for the Kings during those 5 games. Their net rating was up 14.2 during the 5 games, bringing it to an overall net rating of 14.6. Field goals attempted. This was a big one to me. 9 per game. 9 more field goals, which means the pace is up. Field goal percentage up 2% over those 5 games. Points up 13.5 over those 5 games. 3-point percentage up 8.1% to 41.1%. 8%, assist up 6.7 per game, offensive rebounds up 3, turnovers down 3. Now, you might say, yeah, the numbers are skewed because of that Utah game that the Kings just played. They're really not, because I did the same comparison without the Utah game in it, and the numbers are very comparable. Net rating almost doubled. Fair enough. It was 7.3 over a 4-game sample size, but the assists were up 5. Turnovers were down 3. 3-point percentage was up 5%, and field goal attempts were up 8. So what I'm saying is we have a 5-game sample size with Malik in the starting lineup, which shows the Kings trying to play that different style that they talked about in training camp. And a big part of that has been the change in philosophy with the offense. Not as much DHO, a lot more pick and roll for this basketball team, which puts more pressure on the defense. I'm not going to get into the technicalities of it, but it is a more sustainable way of playing, in my opinion. Now, the one question that continues to come up that we still have to address and talk about is the Kings bench. What is going to happen with this bench? Yes, they showed out last game. Yes, Kevin Huerter is playing better basketball. But the reality is this bench is not good enough to take the Kings where you want them to go. So to make this bench better, you got to give something up to get something in return. And I kept mentioning the December 15th date. December 15th. The importance of that December 15th date is any of the players that signed extensions in the offseason, they are now eligible as of December 15th, with the exception of a couple of them, to be traded. Remember last year with Harrison Barnes, a lot of talk about how soon can we trade Harrison Barnes after, or 2 years ago, when he re-signed his contract. That was the big question going around town. So who's going to be on the market? Shams has come out with his first report via ESPN Plus inside his inside pass, the trade buzz on Butler, Ingram, and the rest of the NBA. By the way, there was, and I saw this in the chat, a De'Aaron Fox, and I mentioned it, proposed trade floating around social media yesterday around a lot of Kings people that I follow or maybe I see in my timeline. I don't see that happening. It was with the Miami Heat. I don't think Fox is on the move, but I still stick to what I said before. That decision, depending on how the Kings are playing, may come earlier rather than later. If the Kings are continuing to turn this thing around, again, only one game under 500 now, which still disappointing, but still, they've got a lot of basketball left, and you have got to dominate this coming up stretch of basketball. In fact, I'm going to put it up on the screen for us as we talk about this Shams article. Feel free to hop in on the conversation in the chat. Also, you can call the show 916-822-9485. You can text it, and you can call via Restream. I'll put the link right there as well. So let's get to this screen share because I've got the list of the free agents up as well, so we can hit those. Still getting used to all this technology, and then teaching Grant this technology. It's really fun. I have a good time doing that, and working with Jerry, who will be here tomorrow with us. Make sure that you are around for that. All right, here we go. Now we got something to look at. So let's look at this stretch of basketball coming up for the Kings, and I will take that down. I'm doing the haunted horse right now, where I'm commentating on what I need to do. I need to give myself a damn every time I do that. I got to stop doing that. Don't do the haunted horse. Got to do better than that. Love you, horse. Love you, brother. All right. So talking about this stretch of basketball for the Kings, we hit this a little bit yesterday. New Orleans, you have Thursday. You're playing in New Orleans, a team that has been decimated with injuries. Absolutely decimated. No Brandon Ingram. He is out indefinitely now. because of a sprained ankle, a high ankle sprain. They're trying to figure it out there. Still got DeJounte Murray, who's back from his broken hand, trying to get worked in, trying to get some motivation and some camaraderie amongst a lot of pieces that were not with that team in training camp. But CJ McCollum there as well, no Zion still. So this is a game that the Kings need to take care of business. But remember, the Kings struggled. They struggled mightily against the Pelicans last year, lost all 6 meetings. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Look at the schedule on the right. If the Kings are going to get back above 500 and pad their record a little bit, put some fat reserves, some, let me do that properly, some fat reserves on their record, this is when it needs to happen. Because this record is brutal, or this schedule is brutal coming home. And you play a ton of home games in this stretch. You got Denver at home, and look at the break the Kings have right now as well. It's really nice and much needed in terms of practice time and healing up. But you've got Denver at home. They're still trying to kind of get things figured out. They need massive nights from Jokic to get right. But after that Denver game, you've got 2 with LA, Indiana, Detroit, and then the Lakers again in LA. Then you come home, you've got Dallas, Philadelphia, Memphis, and then you're back on the road at Golden State, and then you're back home for Miami. So I look at this stretch right here. New Orleans, Denver, Lakers, Indiana, Detroit, and Lakers. That is where the Kings can make up some significant ground. Now, here on the left side of the screen, those are the 2025 free agents that are going to be coming available. What's the number again? 916-822-9485. Here you go, BJ. Get up in here. You want to call the show? You can call the show. I know TC is going to reach out at some point. Al, this is your hotline, dude. I set this up for you to be able to call again. 916-822-9485. Get you right on the air. All right. So let's go to Sham's article really quick as we talk about it. And on Sunday, December 15th, this is what Sham writes. The majority of the NBA free agents who signed in the offseason are eligible to be traded. We hit that. Let's see. And then most general managers and team officials will descend upon the G League Winter Showcase in Orlando, Florida from December 19th to the 22nd. Now let's talk about the G League just briefly. The Stockton Kings are playing excellent basketball right now. Quentin Richardson has that team humming. Gabriel Harris, the GM down there, is running a flawless show. You might not have that guy for as long as you think. Gabe Harris is doing an excellent job. We've talked about it in past weeks. And it's not just Gabe, because the Stockton front office works in collaboration with the Sacramento front office, obviously. But this front office for both Stockton and Sacramento that are under the same umbrella, they have identified 2 undrafted players in 3 years and developed them into players that are now, and you can argue about Keon Ellis, where he would be on a different team in terms of rotation. Certainly could do the same about Isaac Jones. But the bottom line is the Kings are where they're at. And they have developed 2 guys that have given this team a lift, a significant lift. Maybe not in scoring, but the little things. Remember, Mike Brown at the beginning of the season preached that he needed guys that wanted to do the little things, to take things off of Fox's plate, take things off of Sabonis' plate. So huge credit to the Kings. Name me another G League organization that's done that. Not 2 drafted prospects, 2 undrafted prospects. Isaac Jones, Keon Ellis. Doing a hell of a job. Get to Stockton and watch some basketball. Or go to Orlando. Check out the G League Showcase. Anyways, Every trade deadline period, there are players who emerge as key figures to watch, those who could shift the balance of the power in the NBA this season. All eyes will be on Miami Heat 6-time All-Star Jimmy Butler and New Orleans Pelicans 1-time All-Star Brandon Ingram. No surprise here about Brandon Ingram. We've talked about him for a minute. He was on the market this last summer. The Kings were tied to discussions with him, or tied to discussions about him. Jimmy Butler, a name that's come up before. So Shams goes on to talk about Jimmy, what he's done, talks about what Brandon Ingram has done, what's left on their contracts. Both Butler and Ingram are essentially in contract seasons. Ingram, by the way, he's got 36.5 left. As for Jimmy, and he's a free agent at the end of the season. Butler has $49 million on his contract for this season, with a $52 million player option for 25-26. The sides did not reach an extension last summer, so it looks like the Heat are going to be shopping Butler. What's that mean? So first off, when we look at the trade deadline, you got to look at the market. What are the big fish out there? It looks like these are going to be the two big fish as you continue to look at the different players. And one of them is already in the chat that is circled. I don't have him circled, but I know a lot of you are hitting it in the chat, and that is John Collins. We've talked about him a decent amount over the last couple days. Hopefully once Carter slides in and Trey is back, that will help, or obviously a trade would be nice. Look, Trey Lyles, Mike Brown has made it a point that you don't lose your starting job to injury, or you don't lose your role in your minutes due to injury. Look at Kevin Huerter when he came back from the shoulder injury. Keon had started the last half of the season last year, started all preseason, and Kevin stepped in opening night to start. But I don't know if Trey Lyles' minutes are going to be there like they used to be there when he's ready to come back. Now, they will in situations when the Kings need shooting, which they always need. But when the Kings are struggling to score, Trey Lyles is a good option. But Isaac Jones is slowly earning the trust, and that's the word trust that I keep hearing from my sources. Isaac still has a lot of ways to go, but he is earning the trust of the vets, the core of this team, where they are not afraid to go to him, meaning they have confidence in him. And if you look at the way that Isaac plays that position versus the way that Trey plays the position, Trey is very similar to other pieces that you already have. Isaac is not similar to the other pieces that you have. Isaac is much more athletic than Trey. He's a quick jumper. What I'm saying is watch how Isaac Jones continues to develop in the time that Trey Lyles is healing, because that's going to be an interesting crossroads. Now, as for Devin Carter, yes, we had the discussion before the start of the season. Will Devin even play this year? Should they redshirt him this year? How do you slide Devin Carter into a rotation at this point in the season? Well, we're at the point where the Kings are one game below 500, so you have to play Devin Carter when he's ready to go. He will be reevaluated at the end of January, early February. That's the West, man. Sink or swim. Yes, indeed. 12-game gauntlet after New Orleans. We'll tell you if the Kings are a playoff team. Peter, Brandon Ingram is injured out indefinitely. We talked about that, Peter. He has a high ankle sprain. So, yes, he is out indefinitely right now, along with a number of the other Pelicans. So, anyways, and we can look at the schedule more in a second. We'll get to that. Want to get back to Shams and continue talking about what he is reporting. Here we go. All right. So sources said the Warriors are looking to add a star player. a playmaker, a scorer, alongside Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Golden State pursued Utah's Larry Marketing and Paul George. We know about that. So the Warriors are looking to make a move. The Kings are not mentioned anywhere in this article. Nowhere. Now, here is an interesting thing. This is very interesting when it comes to this guy. Ingram made a seismic shift in recent weeks, signing with Clutch Sports Group. You know who that is? That's Rich Paul. You know who else represents Rich Paul or is represented by Rich Paul? So think about that. So, anyways, Shams goes on to speculate that the Timberwolves may be active. He goes on to speculate that the Pelicans may be sellers. So the Pelicans stood pat and believed that their current roster was the most talented ever assembled in New Orleans, and the case is strong for that. The Pelicans' top rotation players have appeared promising on paper heading into the season. Ingram, Zion, Murray, Herb Jones, Murphy, CJ McCollum, Misi, and Jose Alvarado and Daniel Tice all season. However, there's been a revolving door of injuries. Pelicans are 5-20 right now in the West. So the question becomes, what are they looking for Brandon Ingram? So you've got Brandon Ingram out there. You also have Jimmy Butler out there. Jimmy Butler does not fit the build or the timeline for this team. And bringing in or entertaining the thought of bringing in Jimmy Butler with DeMar DeRozan on this team would be absolutely an awful move. It makes no sense. Mark says I'd take Schroeder and Cam Johnson from Brooklyn for the Warriors. Now, he gets to that. You just got to my next point. Brooklyn is looking to sell, according to Shams. So that is one of the teams that he hit. He said the Nets have received trade interest and opened exploratory conversations around forwards Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith and guard Dennis Schroeder. Sources said Brooklyn has amassed significant cap and asset flexibility, an NBA high $60+ million in salary cap space, and next summer, and 12 first-round picks and 11 second-round picks eligible for trade to position the franchise for the future. After trading Mikal Bridges to the Knicks last summer, the Nets were looked at as a team looking to unload. The Warriors are rumored to be in those talks. The Pacers, after losing centers James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson to an Achilles tendon tear, the Pacers are actively pursuing a backup five. Okay. Pacers doesn't really affect Sacramento. Phoenix, there's optimism that MVP candidate Kevin Durant could return from an ankle sprain Friday against Utah or Sunday at home versus the Blazers. Sources said the Suns are 11-12 with Durant in the lineup this season and 1-9 without the two-time Finals MVP. As the Suns look into trades, they have a 2031 first-round pick and 3 second-round picks eligible to be moved. Another team with a guy who's come up here in Sacramento, Jeremy Grant, a name that's been popular. Multiple teams have expressed interest in a group of Portland's veterans, Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, and Robert Williams III, as the Trailblazers make decisions on their rosters. And then also the Washington Wizards, a name that has been very heavily rumored here in Sacramento. Several contending teams are expected to pursue Wizards forward Kyle Kuzma. Sources said Kuzma, proven NBA champion on the 2020 Lakers, is in the second season of a 4-year, $100 million deal. You know what Kuzma does. I don't need to read that to you. So those are the early indications from Shams about the trade deadline. Nothing about the Kings. Doesn't surprise me. If you're a Kings fan, I would not ring the alarm because this front office has been very close to the vest. Things do not usually leak out. When the Sabonis Halliburton trade came, it came out of nowhere. So I would not expect to see the Kings in a lot of these articles, especially from Shams. Now, people speculating about teams that may be interested in making moves. Certainly, you're going to see the Kings' names, but it does not bother me personally to see that they are not listed in Shams' early reporting. Schroeder and Cam Johnson Schroeder and maybe. I don't know. Schroeder takes a lot of shots. Mark, I don't know how Schroeder and Buddy Hield work out together. I don't know if that's really a great mix, to be honest with you. So, anyways, here's the list. Let's go back to it of expiring contracts this year. What's realistic for the Kings? And it doesn't necessarily have to be an expiring contract this year. You also have guys that go into 2026. Now, the sexy thing and also the risk about taking a guy on an expiring contract is this. The sexy thing is if it works out and they like it here, you can re-sign them for more without it affecting your cap space. That's the sexy thing. If they don't like it, then you lose everything. They walk away. They can do what they want. They're a free agent. That's the talk about Brandon Ingram, right? What would you have to give up to get Brandon Ingram here in Sacramento? Now that we have seen a 25-game sample size of the Kings, I don't think Brandon Ingram's a good fit in Sacramento. In fact, I would go as far to say I don't think Brandon Ingram fits at all in Sacramento. BI is a lot of isolation. And look at the adjustment that the Kings have had to make with DeMar DeRozan on the team, and not a bad adjustment. Free throw shooting is much better. DeMar has been clutch for this team, not only on the floor, but off the floor and in the locker room. The one guy that really piques my interest and a lot of your interest, because we just saw him and he's been a name that's been out there for a minute, is John Collins. John Collins is set to make $25 million. He's got 25 left on his contract. He's got a player option. Now, the problem is, if you're going to trade with Danny Ainge usually comes out on top. Grant and Jerry talk about that all the time. Danny Ainge does not lose trades. So what would you have to give up to get a John Collins, a name that has been saturated around Sacramento in trade talks for years? But seeing John Collins, like we saw him in the preseason, we saw him earlier this year, and we just saw him the other night in the Kings' massive victory. I think he fits so well into what the second unit does here in Sacramento. He can shoot the three, he can create offense, and he can get to the rim. And he's physical. He's changed his body up. Before, I didn't think John Collins was worth $25 million. Now I think he is. Now, that is a trade that's within the Western Conference. So there's some difficulties there. You look at what Utah's doing on the season as we put up the current Western Conference standings. They're not doing much, nor are they going to do much. I don't think Lowry looks right at all, even though Keegan did a great job on him. You guys hopping in on the conversation. No on Schroeder, Mark Schroeder off the bench for the Warriors. He wouldn't work with Buddy Hield. Mark, I don't see him working with Buddy Hield. They're too similar. They're way too similar. And their size is just about the same as well. They're both ball stoppers. They both love to shoot. Schroeder is much more of a shooter than he is a creator. Big no on BI. Bruce, what's up, man? How you doing today? He doesn't fit at all. Keep BI and Kuzma away from this team. The only two players who would fit are Cam and Collins. All other players are a horrible fit. You start Hield. Huh. I didn't think about that, Mark. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time helping the Warriors out, thinking about their team and their roster. But do you start Heel? I don't know. I think you have already got Buddy to transition to this role and accept and embrace this role, which was the hardest part, which is part of the reason I think he's thriving in it. I don't think putting Buddy in the starting lineup is a good idea. I just don't. That's just me. But I'm with you. I think Cam and Collins, and both guys rumored here in Sacramento at different times. Cam during the draft, Collins in previous years. Just need a second ball handler. Well, that's the other thing, and that's the unknown. As I bring you back in really quick, that's the unknown about this Kings team. It's Devin Carter, right? What is Devin Carter going to bring to this team? We don't know. We haven't seen him play. The one thing that I can tell you is with Malik Monk in the starting lineup, it's the closest thing the Kings have had to a true point guard on the floor with De'Aaron Fox in that unit. And through 5 games, the numbers are there. It shows. Now, strength of schedule, I understand that argument going against it, but you also should have won in Memphis. And I get shoulda doesn't count, but you also had your best game of the season against Houston. So we need to see, look, if the Kings go, we'll talk about that stretch in a second. I'm thinking about the fit with Devin and what other teams are going to be looking for, because if Malik steps in and continues in that starting role, the Kings really don't have that backup point guard outside of Devin. You're going to ask Keon to do it. You're going to ask Jordan McLaughlin to do it. And they are what they are, especially Jordan. I think Jordan's a decent piece. He's just not a piece that's going to change your second unit. It's the bottom line. But what Devin Carter could be is a part of a trade. That's what I think is interesting. Would you need to part with Devin Carter to get a more established piece without shaking this core too much? Because as I look at it with the Kings in their pieces, we've gone over the financials and what everybody makes and who I think is tradable. Let's go to the phones really quick. We'll pick up this conversation in a second. Welcome on to the King's Court with Rhino.
Ryan, it's Al.
Al, what's up, my brother? It's the Al
The
hotline.
OG.
I'm glad you used
Yeah.
it.
You know what? I found the poll. I went in my study. You know, the red phone was ringing, and I answered it, slid down the pole into my costume, and here I am.
Love it, brother. What's going on?
Never mind. That was a reference. That was a reference to the old Batman series. We kind of late. I'm just now listening, and you know, I always get concerned. For me, picks. I know there's going to be picks, but you know, a pick is like you don't know what kind of player you're gonna get. You know, I would much rather have a bona fide body, but I guess the Kings only have so many tradable pieces, you know, to give up. But does it all tie down to where they are now and how we feel about them finishing the season and what's going to happen with Fox? Are we kind of, I think the team can still make the playoffs this year. I really like you had the last 5 games grade. And, you know, I like the B+ because there's no moral victories. I get that, but they lost. They played some good games against San Antonio, Memphis, and they were real close. I get there's no moral victories, but there's losses and there's losses. So factoring that in with how they took care of business against, you know, San Antonio and Utah, which were San Antonio depleted. They think they can make the playoffs, but I just hate to see them lose some bodies. But I guess, what would you think about? Is DeRozan been kind of a square peg, round hole kind of a thing, so to speak, as far as the fit? Which many people like you, Grant, and some media folks were questioning the move to start with. He's a solid player, but I don't know.
Yeah, no. So it's a good question. I didn't question the move with DeMar. I really liked it. I know that Grant brought up some of the other anonymous GMs that have questioned it. He's brought it up since the Kings have struggled. It really depends on what your expectations were when DeMar came to Sacramento. If your expectation was that he was going to be a running gun guy with Fox and Monk, then that's on you. You got to realize the team has to adjust some to what DeMar does best. And I think if you weigh the good that DeMar has brought versus the challenges that it's made the Kings have to deal with, I think the good far outweighs the bad. I mean, free throws are up almost 19% this year over last year. So I think it's still a little bit of an adjustment period for them. And having a true point guard on the floor, which is Malik Monk right now, that makes a huge difference for a guy not only like DeMar, but also like Fox. Because now that the Kings are playing the pick and roll, Al, you're making teams basically decide how they're going to help on the pick and roll. And if they help a certain way because they're worried about the pick and roll, you've got DeMar sitting there on an island who is an assassin from the mid-range. So as to your question about Fox, I think that decision, depending on how this team plays, it's coming up sooner rather than later, because that street goes both ways. If Fox could choose at the end of his contract not to be here, and the Kings can decide, hey, we want to go a separate way, or somewhere in the middle. One player or one side wants the other doesn't. It's one of those things where, Al, the Kings can't lose Fox for nothing.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, absolutely not. So if I'm not NBA, more NFL. So bear with me a bit but so they offered Fox. He opted out of his option year, which would have been the most money the Kings could have given him, and see if he can get what's called the super max, which is a boatload of money. Can the Kings still match these numbers? Do they have that option to do it, or are they going to say, the guy doesn't want to be here? And I don't, as a fan, Ryan, if a guy's belly aching or doesn't want to be on the team, it's like, it's bad chemistry. I'm saying he doesn't want to be here. You try to force the issue, but you got a malcontent in the locker room, and that's not good. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, Foxy,
is that how it works, though?
Well, okay, so two separate things. Foxy is none of those things right now.
Right.
He's playing the best basketball,
absolutely,
I think, of his career in Sacramento, and he wants to be here. But back to lay that out one more time.
I was wondering about the numbers.
Oh, the numbers.
I think the Kings offered him the most they could, or they offered I don't know, it was his 5th-year option, and he said he turned it down. He wanted to see what he could get.
So here's what he wanted to do. It was twofold. I put it out there in June, and then he did an interview finally confirming everything before the start of the season. But if he makes all NBA this year, he would be eligible for the Supermax extension. Now, the last 2 years, the Kings have approached him with a contract extension in the neighborhood of about, I forget what the number was exactly. De'Aaron declined to sign the extension for 2 reasons. The first was the Supermax, and the second was he wants to see how this team develops. He wants to win. He wanted to see this roster progress. And so the Kings can still offer him the same. They can offer him the most money, I guess, because they can go over their cap actually, I don't want to say they can offer him the most money. They can still offer him the same money. But if he was to get a Supermax or be eligible for the Supermax, they could offer him the most.
Now, is that like first, second, or third All NBA, or does it tier down as far as the money? Like if you're second team, you get a little less than first team, and like that, or is that no?
I believe it's any of the tiers, just all NBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say one thing. One thing I think really have a positive feeling about the team, because my take is they started out the season. I'm not making excuses, but you had DeRozan and you got Sabs, who are two guys who are legendary for their, showing up every day and going to work. They were out, and then Malik went out, and the Kings that was a critical time where they got the new pieces, they got DeRozan, and that was it was a setback for the team to get their chemistry going. I mean, look at the Knicks with their moves. They started out struggling, and then they finally started playing together, it seems to me. So I really think now this team does have a shot to get to the playoffs, one of the top 6 seeds. So hopefully they'll figure something out and keep Fox. I just think that's the thing to do, because picks to me are like the old game show. Let's make a deal. You got De'Aaron Fox, for what's behind the curtain,
Yeah.
and
I hear you.
then you end up with a year's supply of dog food or something, or like a player equivalent to that,
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to draft well, number one. And number two, picks.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. If the Kings are good, the picks don't mean as much, right? Because you're picking later in the draft if you give them away.
Right.
Here's what I would say, though, Al. The really important thing about picks right now that I think everybody needs to remember is the new CBA. So when the GMs did their survey at the beginning of the season, even though this is the first year of the CBA, they said it's the number one thing that they would change, because now there's severe penalties for going over the cap to where you can lose your mid-level exception. There's different tiers for the penalties. They call them aprons. So now basically what it's doing is it's trying to rebalance the talent when it comes to players that are bought out of their contracts, not being able to sign with super teams, and then also not building super teams with 3 stars, So,
what? At least the NBA isn't the MLB with the Dodgers and the Yankees who print money. I mean, that's my brother's words. The Dodgers print money. He's a diehard Giants fan in San Francisco. And he's like, what are you going to do? You got to just try to keep up.
Yeah,
but
baseball's crazy. The one thing I was going to say really quick, I just want to go back to the tier thing. The point of that is the point of the whole tier thing in the new CBA is there's actually now a premium. And I talked about this earlier in the show about Stockton, the way they've identified undrafted players and developed them.
Yeah.
But there's a premium on drafting well and developing the players in those first 4 years, kind of like the NFL now, where if you get a quarterback, you got him like the Brock Purdy formula. You got him for cheap for 4 years. So that's where the question becomes. We're waiting to see at this trade deadline what the value of draft picks is going to be. Yeah,
exactly. And you said that on, I believe, yesterday's show. And then you got these protected picks that you spoke of, that, it can't be a lottery pick. No, come on, man. But as far as just real quick on football, man, I know I'm calling late, so bear with me. I'm sure you guys might have talked about this. Hey, that Dallas guy, who know the rules, man. Get your head out of your ass, The guy's, he reminded me of a play. You're probably maybe too younger if you ever remember. Leon Lett, who was a defensive. He let one. That was the old phrase, let one, when you were a kid, was you pass a stinky gas, and that's what he did he did that in the Thanksgiving game. Nate remembers this. And then here it is again. The guy doesn't know the rule. He's trying to recover it. Now, from what I understand, once the punt is blocked, if it goes forward, I guess the receiving teams just leave it alone. The receiving team gets it 1st and 10. Is that correct? Because I'm starting to not know my NFL.
Correct.
Okay. Well, and then your Seahawks, great win, man. And how do you like your new coach? Are you pretty pleased with what he's done so far? That was a big win for tiebreaker, end of year tiebreaker. You guys got the best record in the division, and you got one more game. I think it's us at the Rams on the last week, which
it's going to be for the division. I think, Al, huge win for you guys.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Ryan. anybody but the Niners.
Amen.
Oh man, but how do you like how do you feel McDonald has done in his first year?
You know, I think it's been different. He's been more of a authoritarian than Pete Carroll. He's been not as much of a player's coach. You know, at the on their bye week, they cut their leading tackler that was a linebacker. So I've been impressed with what he's done with the defense. I still think there's work to be done with the offense. I think we're probably in the last year with Geno. But look, when the defense is in the top 10 in the NFL, if you can get a ticket to the dance, I mean, Seattle's formula has always been defense first. So,
I remember the Legion of Boom. Oh, you guys were brutal, man. You know, the Legion of Boom. But well, it's great talking to you.
You too, brother.
Glad appreciate getting the phone number up and running for me and other folks who might be technologically challenged. It was so weird. Everything was going fine, and all of a sudden, something I did to the phone probably just blipped it out. But good talk, man. Go Kings, and have a good night.
You too, brother. Good hearing from you. Set the phone line up for him. Had to set the phone line up for Al. Couldn't figure out the tech. That's all right. The tech is a little bit confusing. I get that. Good call from Al. We touched on a lot of things there. Peter, Leon Lett was a great talent that made some boneheaded plays. Yet he will be remembered forever. Yeah, he's had a few of them. He had the goal line one, right? Oh, man. But that's like the trendy thing in the NFL these days. Dropping the ball. In all of football, dropping the ball as quickly as you can cross the goal line. It's like cool to drop the ball. I don't get that. Do not get it at all. We've covered a lot of ground today between the Kings, Dallas last night, practice today. The Kings were back at work. And again, looking at, I thought Al brought up a good point that I did not hit on. And it's really who's going to set the market. We haven't seen a trade deadline with this new CBA in place. So who's going to be that player that sets the market? You got to think it's going to be Jimmy Butler or Brandon Ingram. It's got to be one of those two. It might be somebody that we don't see coming at all. But for instance, this offseason, the market to offload salary was a second-round pick. So the Kings not only gave up Davion Mitchell to get rid of Sasha, but they gave up a second-round pick to the Raptors. That's how important this new CBA is. Taking on money is very complicated now, and the Kings made some good moves. Getting rid of Davion actually, in fact, got the Kings in the Sasha deal about $12 million, because what you don't know is if you are under the luxury tax, you actually get a prorated portion back from the teams in the NBA that pay into the tax. So that's projected to get the Kings they were roughly 2 million under. That was projected to get them about 10 million. So what I'm getting back to is, we don't know. Look, we had outliers of deals before in the past. Look at what Utah was able to get in the past, and that's why they have so many picks. But I go back to John Collins and Cam Johnson. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing new. I just think that both of them fit in so well with what the Kings do. Mark, why would a team take Ingram now, salary cap room for next year? No, you would take Ingram now if yes, that in part. That could be part of the formula for taking Ingram. You're right. But also, if you think Ingram can put you over the top, if I'm looking at a team that's in the market for somebody like Brandon Ingram, the first team that comes to mind for me is Denver. Denver is the team that could use another big like Ingram. Remember, their number one pick in the draft tore his Achilles. So he's going to be out. He's tore it in Summer League. So no guarantee he'll be ready for the start of next season. So in a situation like that, you get him as a rental. You still got the rookie coming back. Ingram talks heating up again. No, not at all, Tristan. We were going over, Tristan, if you're just joining us, we were going over Sham's first insider report about the trade deadline. The rumors that Shams has heard and is reporting, because as of December 15th, players that signed in the offseason, with the exception of a couple, I believe Larry Markkanen one of them, are eligible to be traded on December 15th. So some of the teams that Shams outlined, the big players that possibly, or Shams says are going to be on the market, are Jimmy Butler, possibly Jimmy Butler, but definitely Brandon Ingram. Now, buyers at the trade deadline, Warriors were mentioned as a team that's looking to acquire another star. There was a few other ones that we hit on. You can go back and catch it. I'm not going to recap all of it. But Brandon Ingram was the other name with Jimmy Butler that Shams talked about that could be on the move. So back to your question, Mark, it's can you get your team over the hump this year with that guy? Not a long-term commitment. Can he take you to that next level for this year and this year only? That is what you're looking for. Tristan, just joining. Thanks for the quick recap. Hope everyone is well. Agree Denver might be a good fit for BI off the bench. Exactly. That's what it would be. It would be off the bench. So, you look at the West, and I've had the graphic up for a little bit. I don't see OKC going anywhere. I don't see Memphis going anywhere. Houston is still up in the air for me a little bit. Still up in the air, if I'm honest. Dallas, now, a lot of people, because Dallas is playing better basketball, are sold on Dallas. I think Grant and Jerry think Dallas is there to stay at the top of the West. I'm not so sure. Dallas 16-8. They've won 7 in a row. They're streaky. They're really streaky. So I think Dallas could move down a little bit. Golden State, we just talked about them. Are they going to stay where they're at? They've got the depth to do it. Can Steph Curry stay healthy? Jay, Keegan for Jimmy Butler? Absolutely. Dude, Jay. Jimmy Butler is DeMar DeRozan. They're the same type of player. There's no way that works here in Sacramento. No way. None whatsoever. It is undetermined at this time. He's out indefinitely with a high ankle sprain. Getting back to the West, Golden State, I think they're probably going to stay right around 5. They might move up a tiny bit. The Clippers, I see them moving down. Right now, they're 6th in the NBA, or in the West, I should say. And then Denver, 12-10. Depends on what they do at the All-Star break. Jay, he has elite defense, but your offense is the problem, my man. The defense is not the problem for this Kings team. There's a segment of the defense that's a problem. It's the three-point shooting defense. Jimmy Butler doesn't improve your three-point shooting defense. He improves your on-ball defense to a degree, but offensively, it would be nearly impossible to work that out. You can bring Jimmy Butler off the bench? I don't see how that works. And if you lose Keegan to me, I'm taking Keegan Murray's defense over Jimmy Butler's right now. Just saying. I think he is at this point in his career where he is at and where Jimmy's at with the money, everything considered, I'm taking Keegan Murray over Jimmy Butler defensively. Keegan shooting worse from 3 than DeMar. He is. That is correct. It's very true. Keon Ellis is your best 3-point shooter right now. BI will never wear a Pelicans jersey again. I'm with you. Look, they wanted him gone before the start of the season. So BI did not fit their formula of what they were trying to do. If you notice, Zion Williamson slimmed down. New Orleans was trying to play a more up-pace physical style of basketball, a very athletic style of basketball. And BI is athletic. He's a good ISO guy, but he's not a fast ISO guy. He's not that physical player. They wanted to reshuffle the deck. They've got probably, when they are healthy, they might have the best defensive perimeter in the NBA. Between Murphy, Jones, DeJounte, that is a bear to handle. But yeah, no, I no chance. I don't see how Jimmy Butler could ever work with DeMar DeRozan on this roster. I don't see it. So, anyways, all right, we're going to get ready to wrap up. Huge thanks again to Bennett for sponsoring today's show. Appreciate all the correspondence, by the way. Al taking advantage of the phone line. Remember, you can now call the King's Court. You can text the King's Court 916-822-9485, 916-822-9485. I sure as hell hope. You know what I'm going to do one day? I'm going to be doing this, and I'm going to have my eyes here. I'm going to be thinking about something over here. My mind's going to trigger, and I'm going to say, I need to give out the phone number. And I'm going to be like, yeah, call the King's Court 916. And I'm going to give out my own phone number. I know it's going to happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but I have a feeling that will happen at some point. Fun day today. Go back and listen to the entire show. If you didn't have a chance, give us your feedback, give us a thumbs up or retweet a like. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to also be a part of the King's Court on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Not only is this audio up, but you get exclusive shows there as well, especially after I talk to my sources, after I rewatch games. You will get shoot-arounds, or what we call shoot-arounds, morning shows, in addition to the live show. That will be audio only, so make sure you're following me on X. You can get the links to all of those there. And don't forget, tomorrow we've got a massive day of content, one of our bigger days of the week. Sean Salisbury, 3 o'clock right here on the channel with Grant, talking NFL, college football playoff, and much more in terms of the pigskin. And then 4 o'clock, Jerry Reynolds is with us. We are doing our Kings Roundtable recap, the last week of Kings basketball. Again, I encourage you to go check out my X at Ryan_in_Sackdown. Look at the numbers that I put out between the 5-game sample size that Malik Monk has started versus the 20 games before that Malik didn't start. And I remind you, those numbers include the Utah game, but without the Utah game in there, the numbers are very similar, with the exception of the net rating. Assist through 4 of the 5 games with Malik Monk starting. Assists are up 5. Turnovers down over 3. 3-point percentage up 5%. Field goal attempts, which is so important for pace for this team, especially if Mike Brown wants to let it fly, +8. That's through 4 games. If you want the 5-game sample size, go to at Ryan_in_Sacktown. Appreciate all of you. Still recovering from this yesterday. This was so bizarre. I can't wait to hear what Coach says about it.
We just need to be methodical by stacking or playing the right way, possession after 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 possession.
The Kings got to find a way to monetize that. You've got to monetize that. That's got to be a t-shirt. That's got to be something. Somebody do something with that. If you are watching from the Kings, do something with it. You can do it. Yeah, we've got lots of drops. Thank you, BJ. Appreciate you, brother. Excuse me. Thank you all, Tristan, BJ. Y'all are the best. Have a great rest of the day. Don't forget Grant tomorrow, 3 p.m. Sean Salisbury right here on the channel. And then also Grant, Jerry, and I back tomorrow for the Kings Roundtable at 4. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Appreciate every single one of you. Go Kings. Light the damn beam. Stay the hell away from Levine. We didn't talk about that name. Oh, boy. If Zach Levine came to Sacramento. Oh, Zach LaVine.
Oh, please, will you stop?
Oh boy. I can see the chat probably lighten up right now as I talk about Zach LaVine. Oh, stay away from Zach LaVine. Do not do it. But hey, for another day, we'll hit it. Be well. Take care. Court is dismissed.